I was a little nervous when I picked up this book to read. The main reason being because I was picking this book after 15 years of reading it for the first time. And it's a little worrisome because you're trying to create an episode of a book that you've really loved in the past. And it's a really old book. This book is dated beyond my date of birth. So has it aged well? This was one of the first few books that I had read for the first time when I got into the whole zone of reading. Will it live up to my expectations? You change as a person, your tastes change. I can hardly read many fiction books nowadays. I have left so many fiction books midway in the last few years. I was worried I did not want to change my experience or thought process about this book because it does have a soft corner in my heart at some level. And I'm so glad that it did live up to its expectations. Yes, it's dated in a few areas, but thank God this book did not disappoint. The book that I'm talking about, if you've already seen it in the thumbnail, but it is Not a Penny More, Not a Penny Less by Jeffrey Archer. Now, this is, the moment I spoke about this author, a few people would have made a face because Jeffrey Archer is not the most loved author in 2024 when I'm shooting this video or recording this episode. But then again, we are talking about Jeffrey Archer and my experience of reading this book when he was at its peak. Today we have multiple authors, today we have multiple voices. Jeffrey Archer is not one of the most popular authors today, but we're talking about the times when John Grisham, your Agatha Christie somehow has still managed to sustain her popularity, of course, because her work is really good. But then John Grisham and Jeffrey Archer and works like these were a lot more popular around bookstores all across the country, at least in India, where I belong. And I have read a few books from Jeffrey Archer in the past. Cain and Abel, The Fourth Estate. Tell me about you. Tell me about some of the books that you've read from these authors way back in 1990s, early 2000s. What are your favorite titles that you would like to recommend? Let me know in the comments below. If you are listening to this podcast, you can find a link to an Instagram post for this particular episode that I'm creating, and you can let me know your recommendations on that in the comments of that Instagram post, or you can just go to the YouTube channel video and give me your recommendations. But the point is, the reason why this book managed to come to my recommendations for this podcast is because while I was reading this book, the plot and the storyline is so robust, it's so good that while I was reading it, I was thinking, if I were an author, if I was writing fiction, I could have used the plot of this book, this story, and I could have created a similar story inspired by the thought process of the story. And that's how good it is. And how would I have written it? I'll tell you about this at the end of the episode. So make sure that you listen or watch this till the end. But let's just tell you about what exactly is this book about and why would I want to urge you to read Not a Penny More, Not a Penny Less by Jeffrey Archer. Hello and welcome to the second episode of the podcast I Urge You To. I'm Manish Ahuja, your host, and I Urge You To is a podcast where you'll get weekly recommendations of books, movies, documentaries, podcast episodes that add value to my life, and I would like to recommend them to you so that you don't have to spend a lot of time figuring out what to watch, what to read, what to listen to, and just click and start consuming content and save yourself a lot of time and get a solid recommendation. This episode has been brought to you by Paycheck To Profit. I'm a money mindset coach and a content creator, and my business is Paycheck To Profit, which is supporting this podcast. And I'll tell you a little more about Paycheck To Profit a little later in the episode. But let's start talking about Not a Penny More, Not a Penny Less by Jeffrey Archer. Without giving you any spoilers, this book is about one man who swindles and he just creates a situation where he manages to con 4 people, and he just manages to get a lot of money from them, about $1 million. And these 4 people come together and they decide to get that money back from the con artist, the business owner who has conned them. And they decide to do this in the most wittiest manner, in a very clever manner, and they have a simple rule. They will get all the money back. They will not give him any discounts. They will want the money back till the last penny, and hence the title, Not a Penny More, Not a Penny Less. How does this book then live up to its name? How does it work? I'll tell you, the entire experience of me reading this book was a little biased. As I told you, this was one of the first few books that I had read. But even while I was reading the book, there were so many things that still are relevant. Being a money mindset coach, it's very easy for me to see similar traits in people who are trying to push shoddy financial products, applications, or stock scripts as recommendations to people who don't understand about money. And the idea is simple. What happened in this book may not happen in 2024 as easily, because the laws have gotten tighter, because the situation is not the same as it used to be today. There's a lot of exposure, there's a lot of access to a lot of information. So the way the scam was done in this book may not happen in 2024, but the psychology behind the scam, the psychology behind how people get conned is still exactly the same. It's just the situations that have turned. So what exactly made me want to recommend this book to you in today's episode? I'll tell you about that. But before that, let me tell you about Paycheck to Profit. Paycheck to Profit is a community for millennials and Gen Zs who are wanting to change their relationship with money, who are wanting to build a better money mindset, understand about money blocks and get rid of money blocks, eliminate one money block at a time, and manifest more wealth into their life. How could you do that? Is by understanding how money works, understanding the thought process behind money, the emotions behind money. And I would like to welcome you to become a member of the Profit Clan, which is an email community where you'll get updates about whatever's happening at Paycheck to Profit, when new episodes are releasing on our podcast and our YouTube videos, when a reel is going gangbuster, or at the same time when I'm doing a new masterclass or any other updates which are worth sharing. I also write a lot of value emails for my community. So to get access to all that information about Paycheck to Profit, you can go down to the show notes or the link in the description below and sign up to become a part of the Profit Clan. Make sure that you do that, and let's get back to the book. Let me tell you what could have been better in this book. One thing that could have definitely been better is more pages, more chapters, more character development. Yes, I am telling you, this book is what, about 330 odd pages, 335 pages, 336 pages. I would have definitely wanted this book to be at least 400, if not, the max stretch could have been 450 pages, and yet it would have lived up to its expectations. The four characters who are coming together, forming a team, you don't get to know too much about them. By the end, when you're starting to get invested in those four characters, the book is coming to an end, so you're left with a small want of wanting to know more about what happened to them, what makes them the kind of people that they are, and yet, and their bond is about to get stronger. It's getting stronger, and how would these four strangers become friends by the end of the book would have been a much better reading experience, at least for me. That could have definitely been better. What was good? The good part, as I told you, is that the story has aged in practice, but it hasn't aged in principle. In principle, till date, all the financial scams that happen have the same string of thought: how to get people greedy, how to get people who think from a scarcity mindset and who are not members of Paycheck to Profit, how to get hold of them and how to get money out of them. The thought process is still the same. It's so powerful and it always works. So if you want to save yourself from getting conned, give this book a try, besides many other books. What is excellent? The overall reading experience, the way the book has been written, the principles of the characters, how they decide to get their money back, not a penny more, not a penny less, how they come together, how four people from different walks of life actually manage to swindle money out of a multimillionaire, and how do they succeed? Do they even succeed? If they succeed, what is it that works in their favor? Do things go just as they planned, or there are multiple twists and turns? I'll just tell you, I'll give you the most expected thing. Yes, there are a lot of plot twists, and those plot twists are amazing as they are spanning out through the story, and that is what makes this book so good. One of the best parts about the book is that as the process gets deeper, as these guys keep getting more and more invested towards getting the money back, the book actually starts getting funnier. As I said, four strangers meeting together, there'll be a lot of friction, or there'll be a lot of formal conversation. But as they're spending more and more time together, as they're getting to know each other, they start cracking jokes at each other. They start taking jabs at each other, and that's when the book starts getting really funny. And how I wish the book was a little, I had more chapters, but that is what it is. What deserves the standing ovation? That's how I recommend all my books. I start with what could have been better, what was good, what was excellent, and what deserves standing ovation. I don't like critiquing media. Of course, if I don't like something, I'm not going to recommend it on this podcast, but I would rather like to take you through a high of what can you expect and make you want to connect to the piece of media and pick it up and read it or watch it. What deserves standing ovation and not a penny more, not a penny less, is the simple fact that the plot is so well crafted. The climax, the last 4 chapters of the book literally take the cake. It's such a beautiful payoff, and just for those 4 chapters, it's still worth going through the book. But let's talk about who could skip the book, because not every piece of media is made for everybody. So let me tell you, according to me, who could not enjoy this book to its fullest. So people, first of all, who don't like reading fiction, or who are prejudiced towards Archer, because as I told you, Archer at the moment in 2024 does not get a very positive impression. But it's okay. If you don't want to pick it up, that's absolutely your choice. If you are too picky about reading books which have something to do with stock markets or finance, because that's the main plot of the book, at least at the start. But it's okay. I'm telling you, if you can sail through those first 5-6 chapters, you'll be in a really good place. And I would still want you to challenge yourself and read this book, even if you don't like reading about finance. And anyway, it's not rocket science. It's very easily explained, so you're not going to feel out of place. Who should definitely read? People who like reading small books, 300, 350 pages. If you want to read something funny, if you want to read about revenge, if you want an easy read, order it now. You'll get it by the weekend. Pull it through the weekend. That's what I did. I finished this book in about 3-4 days, besides all the work that I was doing. Aspiring authors and screenwriters, I would definitely want you to read this book, and I'll tell you very quickly why. Because as I told you, I had my thoughts while I was reading this book. I could get inspiration about this book. I'll tell you in just a couple of minutes, but let's talk about where to find it. It's a very popular author. It's a very popular book. Even if you don't find it in a bookstore near you, you can ask them to get it for you, and they'll very easily get it for you, because Jeffrey Archer has been a bestseller for decades now. And if you would like to order it from Amazon, you'll find the link below. It's a affiliate link. If you'd like to support the podcast, support my work, you could always just go and click the link. Your experience would remain the same, and I would get a small commission from Amazon, and I would be really grateful for you to support the podcast by ordering the book through the link I've given below. Let's talk about how this book has impacted me in 2024. So as I was telling you, if I were to be an author, I would use this book. And a subplot or a storyline that came to my mind is influencers or social media influencers who try to push bad products to their followers, to their fans. Imagine a bad influencer who ends up conning a marketing agency, a brand, a few other influencers, and just takes a lot of money and goes away. If you feel this does not happen, just look up at the FTX scam and you'll know how prevalent this is even in today's times. So imagine 4 people coming together, going behind this influencer, tracing him back and getting their money back, which they lost because of the recommendations that this influencer made, not a penny more, not a penny less. I'm telling you, this book definitely deserves a rehash. It needs to be remade, either in a TV series or a small web series or a book with modern context, and it is definitely going to sell. Share this video or this podcast episode with a writer that you know, a screenwriter, a script writer, an author. Who knows, maybe they'll get an idea, they'll pick up the book and they'll end up writing the next bestseller, or they'll end up creating a series which is going to get them millions and millions and millions of views. If you have liked this episode, I would request you to try listening to the earlier episode or watching the last episode where I recommended The Laws of Success in 16 Lessons. It's a non-fiction book about 750 pages by Napoleon Hill. It's a very powerful book, and I go deep dive exactly like this episode where I tell you about my experience of reading that book. Definitely watch it. You'll find the link in the show notes or the link in the description below the like button. While you're going there, do not forget to like and subscribe to the podcast so that you can get more recommendations in times to come. Follow me on Instagram, Threads, LinkedIn, Twitter, and tell me what are you reading. Tell me what would you like me to read. Tell me what would you like me to cover in the future episodes of this podcast. If you are still listening or watching this episode, I would request you to please take a screenshot. Share that screenshot on your social media. Instagram stories being the most popular way for you to share this episode with your followers. And do not forget to tag me, Mr. Emojical. Follow me on the social media platform, and I would be more than happy to amplify your story to my followers so that it would be a good exchange for your followers to get introduced to my podcast and for my followers to get to know you, and maybe you'll get some followers in return. Please like this episode and give it a 5-star rating so that it reaches more and more people, and more importantly, so that you start getting more content in this genre on your social media feed, so that you actually consume content which helps you get a little better instead of consuming content which only gets you anxious or makes you feel like comparing yourself to others, which is not helping. A very kind reminder to check the Profit Clan link in the description below. Become a part of the Profit Clan, get to know about Paycheck to Profit, change your relationship with money. Expect a lot of episodes to come in the future where I'll be talking about books associated with money, your psychology of money, happy money. There are many episodes coming up. Stay subscribed, stay connected. If you've been listening to this podcast on a podcast application of your choice, you can also watch all these episodes on YouTube. And if you've been watching this episode, you can definitely subscribe to I urge you to on podcast platforms of your choice. Thank you so much for giving me your time. Thank you so much for listening to this episode or watching this episode till the end. I'll now see you in the next video or the next episode. Until then, please take good care of yourselves. Stay connected. Keep going, keep growing.